The 10 lost biblical treasures everyone wants to find. Join us on an epic journey through time and cultures as we unravel the mysteries of these coveted relics that continue to elude the world. Prepare to delve into the unknown, where faith, history, and adventure intertwine in the eternal quest for the 10 lost biblical treasures. Number 10. The Spear of Destiny, or Holy Lance. The mention of the Holy Lance is found in the New Testament, specifically in the Gospel of John, chapter 19, verse 34, where a somber and crucial event is narrated. Instead, one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and immediately blood and water flowed out. This act, carried out by a Roman soldier traditionally identified as Longinus, marked a significant moment in the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, symbolizing not only the certainty of his death but also the fulfillment of the Scriptures, which prophesied that none of his bones would be broken and that they would look upon him whom they had pierced. Throughout history, the Spear of Destiny has been the subject of countless legends attributing immense power or the destiny to rule the world to its possessor. This myth has led historical figures, from leaders of the Holy Roman Empire to, according to some theories, 20th-century figures like Adolf Hitler, to fervently seek it, believing the lance would grant them divine power and protection to conquer and rule. The Holy Lance has had various names and passed through many hands over the centuries. It is said to have been part of the relics of Christ's Passion, preserved and venerated for its spiritual significance and symbolic power. Its historical whereabouts include several locations, from Jerusalem to Constantinople, and later, various locations in Europe, such as Nuremberg and Vienna, where lances claimed to be the authentic Spear of Destiny have been identified. Number 9. The Stones of the Ephod. This garment, described in detail in the book of Exodus, was worn by the high priest of Israel in his services in the tabernacle, and later, in the Temple of Jerusalem. The ephod itself is a type of ornamental apron that was part of this sacred attire, but what truly stands out are the stones set in it. These were not mere ornaments, but elements laden with symbolism and function. The breastplate of the ephod, also known as the breastplate of judgment, contained 12 precious stones, each engraved with the name of one of the 12 tribes of Israel. These stones were arranged in 4 rows of 3 and were sardius, topaz, carbuncle, emerald, sapphire, diamond, jacinth, agate, amethyst, beryl, onyx, and jasper. Each stone not only represented a specific tribe but was also believed to have unique properties, reflecting the identity and spiritual importance of each tribe within the Israelite community. The function of the stones of the ephod went beyond the decorative or identificatory. They were also fundamental in the decision-making process and discerning the divine will. Although the biblical text does not describe in detail how these stones were used in this process, the presence of the Urum and Thum, 2 mysterious objects kept in the breastplate, suggests that the stones could have played a role in divinatory rituals or consultations with God in moments of uncertainty or decision. The fate of the stones of the ephod, along with the rest of the priestly attire, is lost in the mists of history, especially after the destruction of the First Temple by the Babylonians in 586 BC and the Second Temple by the Romans in 70 AD. Their current whereabouts are one of the great mysteries that continue to intrigue archaeologists, historians, and treasure seekers. The rediscovery of these stones would not only be an archaeological find of incalculable value but would also offer a unique window into the religious practices and spiritual life of ancient Israel. Number 8. The Chalice of the Last Supper. This chalice, according to Christian tradition, was used by Jesus Christ during the Last Supper to institute the sacrament of the Eucharist, symbolizing the new covenant between God and humanity through the blood of Christ. The Last Supper, a deeply significant event narrated in the New Testament Gospels, was shared by Jesus with his 12 apostles the night before his crucifixion. During this supper, Jesus blessed bread and wine, giving them to his disciples as his body and blood, and commanded them to do this in memory of him. This foundational act for Christianity not only instituted the Eucharist but also marked the chalice used as an object of immense spiritual significance. Over the centuries, the identity and whereabouts of the chalice of the Last Supper have been the subject of speculation and legend. Various chalices throughout history have been identified by different groups as the authentic Holy Grail, the term popularly used to refer to the chalice of the Last Supper. One of the most famous is the Chalice of Valencia in Spain, which many believe to be the true Holy Grail due to its documented antiquity and history linking it to Jerusalem and subsequently to the Iberian Peninsula through the centuries. Number 7. The Temple Veil. The Temple Veil was not merely an ornamental curtain. It was a symbol laden with spiritual and religious significance. It represented the separation between God and humanity, a constant reminder of God's holiness and the spiritual distance caused by sin. Only the high priest, and only once a year on the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, could pass through the veil to enter the most holy place and offer sacrifices to atone for the sins of the people. The biblical narrative in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke shares a dramatic and significant detail that occurred at the moment of Jesus' death on the cross. The veil of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom. This event is rich in symbolism and has been interpreted by theologians and believers as a divine act indicating the removal of the barrier that separated humanity from God. The tearing of the veil symbolizes direct access to the presence of God, offered to all through the sacrifice of Jesus, marking the end of the need for a human intermediary, like the high priest, in the relationship between God and his people. In this sense, the tearing of the veil is seen as a gesture of invitation and openness, where God's grace and forgiveness become accessible to all, without distinction. Despite its importance in the biblical account, the current whereabouts of the temple veil is a mystery, adding to the list of lost biblical treasures that have captured the imagination of believers and seekers throughout the centuries. The destruction of the Second Temple by the Roman legions in 70 AD left many questions unanswered about the fate of its treasures and sacred artifacts, including the veil. Number 6. The Urum and Thum. These artifacts, whose names mean light and perfection, or possibly curses and truths, were an integral part of the attire of the high priest of Israel and served as a divine means of communication and revelation. The Urum and Thum are mentioned in various books of the Old Testament, including Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers. They were given to Aaron, the brother of Moses and the first high priest, as part of his ephod, a special type of sacred vest. Although the Bible does not describe their appearance or exact composition in detail, it is inferred that they could have been inscribed objects, perhaps stones or gems, carried within the breastplate of judgment, a piece of the priestly garb adorned with 12 precious stones representing the tribes of Israel. The primary function of the Urum and Thum was to facilitate decision-making and reveal God's will to the people of Israel. When faced with critical decisions, Israeli leaders consulted the high priest, who in turn used these objects to obtain guidance directly from God. It is believed that the process might have involved posing specific questions, with the responses determined by the manner in which the objects were drawn or how they fell. The use of the Urum and Thum underscores a deep belief in divine guidance and the need to seek it in moments of uncertainty. These objects were not merely divinatory tools but sacred means through which God's direction was sought for the well-being and justice of the people. Over time, the Urum and Thum disappeared from the biblical narrative, and their whereabouts, as well as the exact method of use, have been lost in history. This absence has fueled curiosity and speculation over the centuries, making them one of the most intriguing biblical artifacts. Number 5. The Tablets of Testimony. According to the Book of Exodus, these tablets were inscribed by the finger of God himself and given to Moses on Mount Sinai. They contain the 10 Commandments, ethical and spiritual foundations that have guided countless generations. The journey of these tablets is as fascinating as their creation. After receiving the commandments, Moses descended from the mountain, only to find his people given over to idolatry. In an act of anger and disillusionment, he broke the first tablets, a gesture symbolizing the fractures between divine ideals and human failings. However, mercy prevails in the narrative. Moses is called back to the mountain, where he receives a second set of tablets, reaffirming the covenant between God and his people. These second tablets were placed inside the Ark of the Covenant, a tangible sign of the divine presence among the people of Israel. The Ark, and with it the tablets of testimony, occupied a central place in the Temple of Jerusalem, serving as a perpetual reminder of the sacred bonds and eternal commitments. The final fate of the tablets of testimony is one of the great mysteries of faith and history. With the destruction of the first temple by the Babylonians, the whereabouts of the Ark and its precious contents were lost to the mists of time. Over the centuries, this enigma has captured the imagination of theologians, archaeologists, and treasure seekers, each longing to discover the final resting place of this testimony of the divine covenant. Number 4. The Table of Solomon. According to various sources, the Table of Solomon was a piece of furniture of incalculable value, located in the heart of the Temple of Jerusalem. It was no ordinary table. It was said to be made of pure gold and precious stones, a tangible manifestation of Solomon's kingdom's opulence and his unmatched wisdom. But beyond its material value, the table held deep meaning. It was a symbol of prosperity, unity, and divine blessing for the people of Israel. Legend has it that the table was not only used for banquets or royal councils but also possessed miraculous properties. It was said to be able to produce food by itself, ensuring that sustenance was never lacking in the kingdom. This miraculous aspect of the table reflects the vision of a realm blessed with divine abundance, where God's providence was manifested through the wisdom of its king. However, the fate of Solomon's table is as mysterious as its history. With the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem and the invasions the kingdom suffered, the whereabouts of the table were lost to the mists of time. Over the centuries, it has been the subject of numerous speculations and searches, each trying to decipher the enigma of its final location. Some believe it was hidden or destroyed, while others suggest it could have been taken to a secret place, waiting to be rediscovered. Number 3. The Holy Grail. This chalice, deeply rooted in Christian traditions, is commonly associated with the Last Supper, where Jesus Christ shared wine with his disciples on the eve of his crucifixion, symbolizing his blood shed for the redemption of humanity. Furthermore, the Grail is linked to the legend of Joseph of Arimathea, who, according to various medieval narratives, collected Christ's blood at the cross using this very chalice and then brought it to Britain, where it became an object of mystical quest. The fascination with the Holy Grail stems not only from its religious significance as a representation of Jesus' sacrifice and the New Covenant but also from its enigmatic presence in literature, art, and Arthurian legends. Over the centuries, it has symbolized the quest for the divine, purity, and eternal truth, inspiring countless knights, adventurers, and scholars to seek it. The story of the Holy Grail intertwines with a mix of legends and historical facts, expanded by medieval narratives like the Arthurian Cycle and Wolfram von Eschenbach's Parsifal, which present the Grail not just as a physical object but as a symbol of divine grace. In these traditions, the Grail is guarded by the Knights Templar or hidden in remote locations, awaiting discovery by those pure of heart and purpose. Although the historical search for the Holy Grail has led some to suggest possible locations, from the Basilica of San Lorenzo in Genoa to Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland, its true essence goes beyond the material. For many, the Grail represents the human spiritual quest, a reminder of the constant presence and grace of the divine in everyday life. Number 2. The Manora of the Temple of Jerusalem. This 7-branched candelabrum is not just an object of deep reverence in Judaism but also a lost artifact that has captured the imagination of historians, archaeologists, and treasure seekers over the centuries. The menorah, as detailed in the Book of Exodus, was constructed by divine command to illuminate the tabernacle, later placed in Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. This candelabrum was made of pure gold, and its design was specified by God Himself to Moses. The menorah was not just a source of light, it symbolized eternal wisdom, spiritual enlightenment, and God's uninterrupted presence among His people. The menorah's fate changed dramatically after the destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem by the Romans in 70 AD. According to historical accounts, it was taken to Rome as part of Titus's war booty, a fact immortalized in the relief on the Arch of Titus in Rome. This image is the last known representation of the menorah and has been crucial for understanding its appearance and significance. Since then, the whereabouts of the menorah have been the subject of speculation and legend. Some believe it could have been destroyed, while others suggest it remains hidden, waiting to be discovered. Over the centuries, there have been countless expeditions and searches to find it, driven by the hope of recovering such a fundamental symbol of the Jewish faith. Number 1. The Ark of the Covenant. Constructed by direct instruction from God to Moses, the ark was made of acacia wood, covered inside and out with pure gold. Its dimensions were precise, with a length of 2.5 cubits, a width of 1.5 cubits, and a height of 1.5 cubits. Atop it were 2 gold cherubim with wings stretched toward the heavens, facing each other and downward towards the cover, known as the mercy seat, which was considered God's throne. The importance of the ark lies not only in its value as an object of worship but also in its central role in religious practices and the communal life of the Israelites. It was carried at the front in battles, guiding and protecting the people of Israel. Its presence in the tabernacle, and later in Solomon's temple, marked the most sacred place, accessible only to the high priest once a year, on the Day of Atonement. Following the destruction of the First Temple in Jerusalem by the Babylonians in 586 BC, the fate of the ark plunged into mystery. There are no reliable mentions of its whereabouts in historical sources after this catastrophe, fueling countless speculations and legends. Some theories suggest it was hidden to protect it from invasion, while other narratives place it in locations as diverse as Ethiopia, Egypt, and various secret locations throughout Europe and America.